and let us coexist in peace, harmony, and love.
فأول خطوة على طريق التعايش وعلى طريق التسامح أن تقبل القسمة على الجميع وأن تفتح عقلك على الجميع، وهذا ما يعني صار أمارة وعلامة مسجلة وفارقة لدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة. لذلك كما ذكرت التسامح لا يمكن أن يتأتى من خلال فقط الأفراد، ينبغي أن يكون هناك يعني دعم من المؤسسات الحكومية ومن الشعب، وهذا ما نراه في دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة إذ تجلى بشكل واضح حتى يعتبر يعني الخطوة الأولى على مستوى العالم. أظن أن هناك وزارة أنشئت باسم التسامح. الإمارات العربية المتحدة أرادت أن تقول للعالم إن ثقافة التسامح والتعايش تنسحب على الجميع على مستوى الحكومة وعلى مستوى الشعب. لذلك أقول هنيئا لدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة هذه الخطوة الرائعة التي صارت نبراسا أسأل الله عز وجل أن يستضيء وأن يستظل به جميع دعاة المحبة في دنيا الإنسانية.
a full year.
In a world full of wonders, each of us has a thread to weave a part in our story. Rejection leads to destruction. Embracing each other is the answer. Our forefathers knew this truth and planted the seed of compassion.
لا شك بأن التسامح قيمة إنسانية عظمى، وله في هذا العصر أهمية كبرى، بل أصبح للتسامح في هذا العصر مؤسسات عالمية كبرى ترعاه وتهتم به. ونحن في دولة الإمارات ولله الحمد أصبح للتسامح وزارة خاصة، وهذا الأمر بالنسبة لنا كباحثين يعد في أعلى مستويات الاهتمام. في دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة نعيش التسامح عقيدة وقانونا وممارسة. إذا رأينا التركيبة السكانية لدولة الإمارات لوجدنا أن هنالك أكثر من 200 جنسية في هذا المجتمع، كلهم ولله الحمد متناغمين، متآلفين، متعاونين، متسامحين. نحن في دولة الإمارات بفضل جهود القيادة الرشيدة وبفضل الموروث الأخلاقي والقيمي لأبناء هذا المجتمع أصبحنا ولله الحمد نعمر عمارة يعمر المسلم وغير المسلم، كلهم يتشاركون في تعمير هذه الأرض. فتجربة التسامح في دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة تجربة عالمية بامتياز، وتستحق الإشادة كما أنها تستحق الدراسة والروية حتى تصدر إلى غيرها من المجتمعات الإنسانية.
Before coming to UAE, I was living in Australia, and the real reason I came to UAE was the amazing architecture happening here.
I've been here in this country for 30 years.
من صغري، يعني من أول ما خلصت جامعة كنت حابة إن أنا فعلا أسافر للإمارات.
And after coming here, the warmth and the welcome there, we can see there is no animosity, everybody is equal, and that myth was completely shattered.
There was only one church that used to be in Sharjah. Now we have lots of churches.
أول ما استقرينا في البلد في أبو ظبي، تعرفنا على ناس كتير في البناية عندنا. اكتشفنا أنهم من بلدان مختلفة. في الإمارات فيها أكتر من 200 جنسية.
Be it Diwali, be it Eid, be it Christmas, it's all the same over here.
I remember also we used to go to different malls where they used to have trees, Christmas trees, and it was something I was not expecting to see in UAE. When I first came to this country, I know there was freedom. Have trees, Christmas trees, and it was something I was not expecting to see.
Was tolerant or was accepting. Honestly, I could not find in any other country in the world.
وده بيأكد إن التسامح ده يعني شيء عالمي، يعني احنا تعلمنا ده وعلى أساسه عشنا في حالة من السلام والتسامح جميلة جدا بنعيشها ولا زالت.
Check one, check. I request each and every one of you to please stand up. Check one. Check one, check.
ഇയർ ഓഫ് ഗിവിംഗ്, ഇയർ ഓഫ് സയദ് എന്നിവയെ തുടർന്ന് 2019 വർഷം ഇയർ ഓഫ് ടോളറൻസായി യുണൈറ്റഡ് അറബ് എമിറേറ്റ്സ് പ്രഖ്യാപിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നു. വിവിധ രാജ്യക്കാർ, വിവിധ സംസ്കാരം പേർന്നവർ, വിവിധ ഭാഷകൾ സംസാരിക്കുന്നവർ, വിവിധ മതക്കാർ, 200ഓളം രാജ്യങ്ങളുടെ വ്യത്യസ്തരായ ജനങ്ങളെ ഉൾക്കൊള്ളുന്ന വിശാലമായ കാഴ്ചപ്പാടുള്ള ഒരു ഭരണ സംവിധാനവും ഭരണാധികാരികളുമുള്ള മഹത്തായ ഒരു രാജ്യം, അതാണ് യുണൈറ്റഡ് അറബ് എമിറേറ്റ്സ്. ഈ രാജ്യത്തിന്റെ ഭരണാധികാരികളുടെ വിശാല മനസ്കതയുടെയും സൗമനസ്യത്തിന്റെയും ഉത്തമ ഉദാഹരണമാണ് ദുബായ് നഗരത്തിന്റെ ഹൃദയഭാഗത്ത് നിലകൊള്ളുന്ന ഈ ദേവാലയം. ഈ ദേവാലയത്തിന് സൗമനസ്യപൂർവ്വം സ്ഥലം അനുവദിച്ചു തന്ന മുൻ ഭരണാധികാരി ഹിസ് ഹൈനസ് ഷെയ്ഖ് റാഷിദ് ബിൻ സയ്യദ് അൽ മക്തൂമിനെ നന്ദിപൂർവ്വം സ്മരിക്കുന്നു. ഇയർ ഓഫ് ടോളറൻസിന്റെ ഒരു വർഷം നീണ്ടു നിൽക്കുന്ന ഇടവക തലത്തിലുള്ള പരിപാടികൾക്ക് തുടക്കം കുറിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് റീഇമാജിനിങ് ഇന്ത്യ, എ ന്യൂ എറ ഓഫ് ഇൻക്ലൂസീവ് ഗ്രോത്ത് ആൻഡ് ടോളറൻസ് എന്ന വിഷയത്തിൽ ഇന്ന് ആദ്യ ടോക്ക് ഷോ നടത്തപ്പെടുന്നു.
I now request each and every one of you to please stand up for the national anthem.
Yeah.
Welcome speech.
Pleasant good afternoon, one and all. I'm not taking a risk to deliver a welcome speech in English in front of Dr. Shashi Tharoor, MP. വളരെ സന്തോഷത്തോടു കൂടിയാണ് ഇവിടെ നിൽക്കുന്നത്. വളരെയധികം ആഗ്രഹിച്ചു ഡോക്ടർ ശശി തരൂരിനെ നമ്മുടെ ഗോൾഡൻ ജൂബിലി സെലിബ്രേഷൻ്റെ ചീഫ് ഗസ്റ്റായിട്ട് ലഭിക്കുവാൻ തക്കോണം. പ്രത്യേകമായ ചില സാഹചര്യത്തിൽ അതിന് സാധിച്ചില്ല. എന്നാൽ ഇപ്പോൾ വളരെ അവിചാരിതമായിട്ട് അദ്ദേഹത്തെ നമുക്ക് ഈ ടോളറൻസ് ഇയർ അതിൻ്റെ ഈ ദേവാലയത്തിലെ പരിപാടികളുടെ ഉദ്ഘാടനത്തിനായിട്ട് ചീഫ് ഗസ്റ്റായിട്ട് ലഭിച്ചു എന്നുള്ളതിൽ വളരെ സന്തോഷമുണ്ട്. എനിക്ക് അധികം പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തേണ്ട ആവശ്യമില്ല. ഒറ്റ വാക്കുകൊണ്ട് ആയിരക്കണക്കിന് ഇന്ത്യക്കാരെ ഗൂഗിളിലും എല്ലാ ഡിക്ഷണറികളിലും തിരയുവാൻ തക്കോണം പ്രാപ്തനായിട്ടുള്ള ആരെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അത് ഡോക്ടർ ശശി തരൂർ മാത്രം. വളരെ സന്തോഷത്തോടെ ആദരവോടെ ഒരു മിനിറ്റും നഷ്ടപ്പെടുത്തുവാനില്ലാതെ അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ വാക്കുകൾ ശ്രദ്ധിക്കുവാൻ തക്കവണ്ണം ഇവിടെ സന്നിധരായിരിക്കുന്ന ഏവരുടെയും പേരിൽ ഈ ദേവാലയത്തിലേക്കും പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഇവിടെ കടന്നു വന്നിരിക്കുന്ന എല്ലാവരുടെയും പേരിൽ ഈ ടോക്ക് നടത്തുവാൻ തക്കവണ്ണം ഇവിടെ എത്തിച്ചേർന്ന ഡോക്ടർ ശശി തരൂരിനെ ആദരവോടെ എല്ലാവരുടെയും പേരിൽ സ്വാഗതം ആശംസിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ വാക്കുകളെ ചുരുക്കുന്നു. നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം.
Thank you, Achan. Now it is the time for lighting of the lamp.
I now invite our chief guest, Dr. Raju Thomas, our vicars, Shri Isaac John Patani Parambil, Sabha Managing Committee members, Shri Jacob Matthew, Shri P.G. Matthew, the Delhi Diocesan Council members, Shri Paul George Puvatil, the Honorary Trustee, Shri Binu Verghese, and Honorable Secretary, Shri Babuji George to the stage for the lighting of the lamp.
Starting in the east, sun rises in the east and carries on around the world. ഐക്യരാഷ്ട്രസഭയിൽ 3 പതിറ്റാണ്ടുകളുടെ സേവനം, അണ്ടർ സെക്രട്ടറി പദത്തിലെത്തുന്ന ആദ്യ ഭാരതീയൻ, നിരവധി ഗ്രന്ഥങ്ങളുടെ രചയിതാവ്, മുൻ കേന്ദ്രമന്ത്രി, തികഞ്ഞ വാഗ്മി, ആംഗലേയ ഭാഷയെ കൈവെള്ളയിൽ അമ്മാനമാടുന്ന വാഗ്ധോരണി, ഭാരതത്തിൻ്റെ അഭിമാനം, മലയാളികളുടെ സ്വകാര്യ അഹങ്കാരം, അനന്തപുരിയുടെ അനിഷേധ്യ നേതാവ്, തിരുവനന്തപുരത്തു നിന്നുള്ള ലോകസഭാംഗം, വിശേഷണങ്ങളേറെയുണ്ട്. വിദേശകാര്യ വകുപ്പ് സംബന്ധമായ പാർലമെൻ്ററി സ്റ്റാൻഡിംഗ് കമ്മിറ്റിയുടെ ചെയർമാൻ, ഇന്ത്യ പ്രൊഫഷണൽ കോൺഗ്രസ് ചെയർമാൻ എന്നീ നിലകളിൽ സേവനമനുഷ്ഠിക്കുന്നു. നമ്മുടെ ഏവരുടെയും പ്രിയങ്കരനായ അഭിമാനമായ ഡോക്ടർ ശശി തരൂറിനെ വിഷയം അവതരിപ്പിക്കാനായി ക്ഷണിച്ചുകൊള്ളട്ടെ. ട്രസ്റ്റിയെ പൊന്നാടി അണിയിക്കാനായി ക്ഷണിച്ചോളൂ. Thank you, Mr. Binu Verghese. അധികം വാങ്ങിച്ചു.
Good afternoon, everybody. Father Nine and Philip, Shri Binu Verghese, ഇവിടെ നിൽക്കുന്ന എല്ലാ സെയിൻറ്റ് തോമസ് കത്തീഡ്രലിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്ന എല്ലാ സഹോദരി സഹോദരന്മാരെ എല്ലാവർക്കും എൻ്റെ വിനീതമായ നമസ്കാരം. പലവരും നിൽക്കുന്നു അവിടെ, പക്ഷെ ഇവിടെ കുറേ empty seats ഉണ്ട്. ഒന്ന് ഫ്രണ്ടിലേക്ക് വന്നാൽ ഈ സീറ്റുകൾ എടുക്കാൻ സാധിക്കും. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഇത്ര നേരം നിൽക്കേണ്ടി വരില്ല, അത്രയേ ഉള്ളൂ. ഒരു റെക്കമെൻഡേഷനാണ്. പല സീറ്റുകൾ ഇവിടെ ഒഴിവായി ഇരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇനി ഒരു 10 പേർക്ക് വരാനുള്ള സ്ഥലമുണ്ട് വേണമെങ്കിൽ. തിരുവനന്തപുരക്കാർ പ്രത്യേകിച്ചും മുന്നോട്ട് വരട്ടെ. കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ഒരറ്റത്തിലാണ് നമ്മൾ, പക്ഷെ ഇവിടെ ഫ്രണ്ടിൽ വന്നിരിക്കാം. അത് ശരി, ഓക്കെ. ശരി, ഞാൻ ആക്ച്വലി നിങ്ങളെല്ലാവരുടെയും മലയാളം അനൗൺസ്മെൻറ്റ്സ് കേട്ടപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ ഫാദർ നയനോട് ചോദിച്ചു ഏത് ഭാഷയിലാണ് എൻ്റെ പ്രഭാഷണം പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കുന്നതെന്ന്. അദ്ദേഹം പറഞ്ഞു ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് മതി. അപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അനുവാദമുണ്ടോ ഞാൻ ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ സംസാരിച്ചോട്ടെ? ഓക്കെ. പക്ഷേ ഇത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടൊരു ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ആൻഡ് ആൻസർ സെഷനും ഉണ്ടാവും. അതിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അഥവാ മലയാളത്തിൽ ചോദ്യം ചോദിക്കുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ മലയാളത്തിൽ ഉത്തരം പറയാം, ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ ചോദ്യം ചോദിച്ചാൽ ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ ഉത്തരം പറയാം. ഇസ് ദാറ്റ് ഫെയർ? So I am very, very honored to be here. As Father Nainan mentioned, he had been kind enough to invite me as the chief guest for the wonderfully big celebrations a couple of months ago to mark the end of the Golden Jubilee year. And I had really done my best to try and make it happen. The problem was it was the last day of Parliament on a Friday. I had to submit some private members' bills that evening. And if I had taken the next flight after that session, I would have arrived after your function finished. So I explained to Father Nainan, I really wanted to come, but there was just no physical means of getting here in time. Even Isaac John, who was working very closely with Father Nainan, said to me, we'll make your speech the last thing of the day, provided you reach here by 7:30 or 8 o'clock. That was not physically possible. And that is why I couldn't be with you. But I'm delighted that we are able to make up for it today by joining you all for the inaugural seminar of your Year of Tolerance. I think in many ways it is remarkable that this church, this cathedral, has celebrated its Golden Jubilee on the soil of the UAE. Let's face it, it is relatively uncommon in some of our Gulf countries for other faiths to be able to practice themselves, their own beliefs openly. The giant neighbor, Saudi Arabia, legally prohibits it. And it is not possible to set up a temple, a church, or any other place of worship on the soil of Saudi Arabia. Here in the UAE, however, they have chosen to make tolerance a fundamental principle of their existence. And I find this a remarkable choice, particularly for a country on the Arabian Peninsula, the very peninsula in which the Islamic faith was born 1400 years ago, the holy land in many ways of our Muslim brothers. And one could have understood if they were reluctant. But from the early days, from the days of Sheikh Zayed, there was this perception that the UAE had to be accommodative of the faith, the belief, the value systems of people of all religious communities. And I think that achieved two things for the UAE. First, it helped create a climate where this country has become an oasis, quite literally, of religious tolerance in this region. But secondly, it reinforced the willingness of people of various nationalities, various religious faiths, to come and live and work here and help build up this country. We as Indians always say with great pride that you all have built up the UAE. And it's true, you have. And you've done so voluntarily. In the 19th century, it was also true that it took Indians to build up Singapore. But that was because every single Indian who built every single building in Singapore was transported there by the British as a prisoner. It was penal servitude. Whereas here in Dubai, in the UAE, what we have is a society being built by the voluntary sweat, blood, toil of Indians and others, but particularly Indians, who have contributed to making this country this oasis of tolerance and understanding. Now, this year of tolerance comes at a time when the currents of intolerance are spreading in many countries in the world. You know, in the early 90s, some of you are old enough to remember when the American political scientist Francis Fukuyama wrote a book called The End of History. He wrote it with the collapse of Soviet communism, and he predicted rashly the dawn of a new age where the fundamental issues dividing people, the fundamental issues of history, would be permanently resolved. And he thought that you would be in a world in which liberal democracy and capitalism had triumphed over competing systems, and peace and harmony and prosperity would spread around the globe. He wrote that book in 91, I think, or 92. Now you know how wrong he turned out to be. Not only did history turn around and say we have not ended, but violence, terrorism, conflict within and between countries has only intensified in the 20th quarter century since. And when you look at what has happened around the world, when you look at the rise of Al-Qaeda, the rise of ISIS, civil wars and clashes in so many countries, you realize that we are looking at a world in which tolerance is not something that you can take for granted. That's why I think it's so important that the UAE has chosen to celebrate a year of tolerance as a means of conveying a message to all the people living in this country, all of you and people of other nationalities, other religions, that you belong and we all belong in a world in which it is our solemn duty, our obligation to actually coexist with respect. I personally think that even tolerance is not the whole story. That Swami Vivekananda's concept of acceptance is even better. Because tolerance seems to imply that somebody is in a dominant position and they're indulging the views of others. So the tolerant king is a good king, but he's saying, I have the truth, you are in error, but I will generously indulge you in your right to be wrong. What Swami Vivekananda spoke about was acceptance. Acceptance is a bit different. Acceptance says, I believe I have the truth. You believe you have the truth. I will respect your truth. Please respect my truth. And this, I think, is at the core of a true system of tolerance. It is mutual respect. A good Muslim does not have to become a good Orthodox Christian tomorrow. On the contrary, he can be very proud of and firm of his faith in Islam. But he must respect the fact that you too are proud of your faith in Orthodox Christianity. And that basis of mutual respect is what builds successful, thriving civilizations. And the UAE has turned out to be a shining example of that in this part of the world, and I would argue even in the world as a whole. So when we celebrate the year of tolerance, we're talking about celebrating mutual coexistence, mutual respect, mutual acceptance of each other. Now, the topic that was given to me says reimagining India in this context. And why do we need to reimagine India? It is because the fundamental assumptions of this mutual coexistence, which have built up the India that most of you have migrated from. I'm sure there are some here who were born in the UAE, but many have migrated from India. We grew up in an India in which this tolerance was something we took for granted. We had an astonishing diversity in our country, and we took it as something that was normal and natural to live with. I went to high school in Calcutta, and I remember every day I could hear 5 times a day the wail of the muezzin calling the Muslim faithful to prayer. But his call would practically blend with the tinkling of the bells at the at the Ganapati temple on the corner of the street. And then down the road, there was the loudspeakers outside the Gurudwara blaring out recitations of verses from the Guru Granth Sahib. And around the corner was St. Paul's Cathedral. That was my corner of Calcutta. But years later, I've come to be an MP from Thiruvananthapuram. And what do I see in Palayam? There is the magnificent St. Joseph's Cathedral, where every Christmas Eve I have been able to attend Mass for the last 10 years. And diagonally across from it is the equally magnificent architecture of the Jummah Masjid of Palayam. And what is more, behind the masjid is a beautiful old, very small Ganapati Kshetram that the Hindus religiously go and pray at. This kind of coexistence, we don't have a Gurudwara in Trivandrum, we don't have enough Sikhs, but this kind of coexistence, the Trivandrum experience, mirroring the Calcutta story, this is what tolerance is all about. And India was built on that idea, and it goes back to the independence movement. Because as you all know, our independence movement, our nationalist struggle against the British, did not divide on the basis of ideology. It didn't break up as communists versus non-communists, or people in favor of one kind of socio-economic system versus ideologues of another set of beliefs. No. It instead divided on the basis of one sadly simple but elemental principle. And that principle was, one group of people said, religion should be the determinant of our nationhood, and we must create a country for our religion. They succeeded, they created Pakistan, so that was the idea of Pakistan. But the remainder said, no, religion is not the basis of Indian nationhood, that we are fighting for the freedom of everyone, of every faith, and merely because Pakistan has been created ostensibly as a home for people of one religion, that does not mean that what remains in India will be for people only of another religion, namely Hinduism, the majority faith. Rather, said our great leaders, Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Maulana Azad, and many others, they said, no, India will remain a country for everybody of every religious faith and persuasion. And our constitution that was written in the first 3 years after independence, even in the wake of the horrors of partition, when the flames of violence burst out across the land, 1 million people were killed, 13 million were displaced and crossed their boundaries of their two countries. Billions of rupees of property were destroyed and damaged. Despite all that, our founding fathers and mothers wrote a constitution for this idea of India, a constitution where everyone was equal, where you could be free to worship as you chose, to practice, profess, and propagate your own religion, while still being secure in the comforting identity of an Indianness that you shared with people of other religions. That was the idea of India. And it was a very basic idea. The idea was that we could overcome differences of caste, of creed, of color, of culture, of cuisine, of conviction, of consonant or language, or even of costume and custom, and still rally around a consensus. And that consensus was on the very necessary idea that in a big diverse country like India, you don't really need to agree all the time, so long as you agree on the ground rules of how you will disagree. That was the great secret of the Indian experiment. We could disagree through democracy, our political parties could argue with each other, but at the end of the day, we resolved our differences at the ballot box and not through the bullet. And in that process, we ended up with a country which for 71 years has survived as a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, plural land that has taken everyone along with it. That's been the great strength of the Indian experiment. Sadly, for the first time in the last few years, we have people in a position of dominance and power who don't subscribe to these basic assumptions, these basic ground rules. People who believe that India was always a Hindu country and that even the constitution should be rewritten to create a Hindu Rashtra. They have argued that there is a fundamental flaw in the constitution. They argue that, as far as the idea of India and the constitution is concerned, they say that the constitution assumes that India is a territory and the constitution is written for all the people on that territory. Wrong, they say India is not a territory, it is a people. And the people of India are the Hindu people. Everybody else is either an interloper, a guest, or a bandit, a dacoit who has broken into your house and has no right to be there. So it is with that kind of mentality that many of the people who are currently associated with the ruling forces in India have approached the issue of religion, have approached the issue of people of other communities, and have tried to argue that these people should not have the same rights as the majority Hindus. This is a rather dangerous idea in the context of the ideas of tolerance we're discussing today. They are, in a sense, trying to reimagine India. And they're quite serious about their project. They actually have asked one of the veterans of the RSS, Mr. Govindacharya, to write a new constitution, a Hindutva constitution for a Hindu Rashtra. And what they're trying to do with that text is that they are trying to enshrine an idea of India that is reimagined from the idea that I have described to you. If you look, for example, at what has been happening with the way in which certain principles are sought to be taught, we have the totally unnecessary controversy over Bharat Mata Ki Jai, for example. Because what happens is that the ruling party has decided that the slogan Bharat Mata Ki Jai, victory to Mother India, is somehow a litmus test of loyalty to the nation. Some Muslims, and not all, but some Muslims say we have a problem with this because our religion or our understanding of our religion does not permit us to deify the nation as a mother goddess and express an act of worship that is un-Islamic. So we will say Jai Hind, we will say Jai Bharat, but we will not say Bharat Mata Ki Jai. And somehow these people have been denounced as anti-national. One chap has been expelled from the Maharashtra Assembly or suspended because he refused to say Bharat Mata Ki Jai. This is bizarre, but it is keeping with the kind of mentality these people have. To my mind, if you read our constitution, if you read what we believe in, our constitution gives you the right to say Bharat Mata Ki Jai, and it gives you the right not to say Bharat Mata Ki Jai as well. That is what a democracy is all about. അപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങളുടെ ഭാഷ ഏതായാലും, നിങ്ങളുടെ മതം ഏതായാലും, നിങ്ങളുടെ ജാതി ഏതായാലും, നിങ്ങളുടെ രീതി ഏതായാലും, നിങ്ങൾ ഇഷ്ടപ്പെടുന്ന ഭക്ഷണം ഏതായാലും, ഇതൊന്നും പ്രശ്നമല്ല. നിങ്ങൾ ഭാരതീയരാണെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾ എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒരേ അവകാശമുണ്ട്. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ദി ബേസിക് കോൺസെപ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് ദ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ ഓഫ് ഇന്ത്യ, ആൻഡ് ദാറ്റ് കോൺസെപ്റ്റ് ഈസ് വാട്ട് ഈസ് ബീങ് റിജക്റ്റഡ് by the people who are promoting intolerance today. Now, what do we see as a result of this intolerance? We've had the bizarre phenomenon of cow vigilantism. What is cow vigilantism? For these people whose interpretation of the Hindu faith is that the cow is sacred, is holy, and therefore must not be slaughtered or eaten, for them, opposition to cow slaughter is fundamental, and for them the argument remains that anybody who in any way harms a cow deserves worse punishment than anybody who harms a human being. That is their mentality. Now, in the old India, we accepted that some people believe this and other people didn't believe it. Some people would not want any harm to come to a cow. Some people happily ate beef. And both kinds of people had every right to be in India as Indians. That was our understanding of India for 50, 60 years. Today, that's no longer acceptable. Today, we have seen Muhammad Akhlaq, the father of an Indian Air Force Havildar, being beaten and murdered outside his own home because of suspicions that the meat that was in the bag he was carrying was actually beef. These people then broke into his house, broke down the door, entered the kitchen, broke open his fridge, took out the meat there and marched to the police station with that meat. And instead of arresting these vile gundas, these hooligans, the police arrested the meat. And they sent the meat off to a lab to be tested to see whether it was beef. It actually wasn't. But even if it was, are we now a country where this kind of rampant violence, hooliganism, and indeed murder can be justified on the grounds that somebody is eating beef? What have we come to? What have we come to when a Muslim dairy farmer, Pehlu Khan, transporting cows in an open lorry with a permit, he had a permit because he's a dairy farmer, was intercepted on the highway, beaten within an inch of his life and died of his wounds, and they put up on YouTube a video of him begging for mercy. And they expect us to think that this is a lesson for anybody who will harm cows. He was not even harming a cow, he was transporting cows for purposes of milking. But once you are a Muslim in that kind of person's mentality, it doesn't matter what the truth is. The truth is beside the point. The cause is what matters. Is that the kind of India we want to live in or bring our children up in? An India where 15-year-old Junaid Khan, returning from Eid shopping with new clothes to show his mother, but wearing a Muslim skull cap, is therefore immediately identified as a Muslim and stabbed 27 times on a train and thrown off the train? Is that the kind of India we want to live in? But this is what the question of reimagining India has become. Because the people who have reimagined India in their own image have reimagined an India where such people have no rights and only the cow has rights. It is safer to be a cow in some parts of northern India today than it is to be a Muslim. Now that's the kind of India against which we must stand. That is the kind of India that we need to reimagine back again to an India of tolerance, of inclusion, of understanding. What is it that in the forthcoming elections really matters? All elections have a large number of different issues to be dealt with. We have elections in just 2 months' time, and we will certainly be raising issues of economic mismanagement, misgovernance of the country. We will be asking people, have Achhe Din come for you? It hasn't. We're asking people, are you happy paying 20 rupees a litre tax on your petrol? They're not. I'll ask housewives, when you used to pay 390 rupees for a gas cylinder under the Congress, are you happy now paying 970 rupees for the same gas cylinder under the BJP? Why should you be? So we will do all of that kind of campaigning also. But there is one fundamental underlying question that nobody can escape. And that question is this the kind of India you want to see? Do you want to see an India where some people of one religious faith are the first-class citizens and everybody else lives on their sufferance? Do you want an India where the government enters your kitchen, enters your bedroom, tells you what you can eat, who you can love, what you can wear, where you can go, how you can pray? Or do you want an India where people go back to the old days of being who they are, respected and respecting each other? It's never one-way traffic. It should not ever be one-way traffic. If a Muslim rightly demands respect from the Hindu, in turn the Muslim must give respect to the Hindu. It must be both ways. But that mutual respect is what creates a society that we can all be proud of. So I have said that this coming election is not just an election between competing political parties. It is a battle for India's soul. ഭാരതത്തിൻ്റെ ആത്മാവിനെ സംരക്ഷിക്കാൻ ഒരു സംഘർഷമാണ് ഞാൻ പറയും. And when people say, aren't you exaggerating a bit? I say no, because this is the most fundamental question. What is India all about? Because either you believe in an India, the India reflected in the Constitution, an India for everybody of every faith, or you believe in an India where some matter more than others, one faith is dominant. Look what you're seeing today, with a number of towns with Muslim names being renamed with Hindu names because the rulers of today believe that those are the original quote-unquote names, and everything else, 600-700 years of Muslim presence in the subcontinent, is irrelevant to them, is merely an interruption that needs to be corrected. So Allahabad, which is a name that is more than 700 years old, has now become Prayagraj. You have heard of Aurangzeb Road in Delhi, which has been there from the founding of Delhi, of New Delhi, has become Dr. Abdul Kalam Marg. Thank God Abdul Kalam is also from the Muslim community, but above all, a man who was a great Indian, above any faith. But still, the message was Aurangzeb is not welcome. Ahmedabad, they want to change to Karnavati. And during the recent elections in December in Telangana, Yogi Adityanath, the Chief Minister of UP, came to Hyderabad and campaigned saying that if we win, we will change the name of Hyderabad to Bhagyanagar. No wonder all the BJP candidates lost their deposit. The people of Telangana have a little more common sense, and they understand that this kind of divisive talk is only to spew and promote hatred and disaffection. It is not to create any meaningful contribution. We should be an India that builds new cities for all, not one that renames cities. We should be an India that promotes unity, not uniformity. We should be an India, today we all stood up and honored the tragic memory of the 40 CRPF Jawans who were murdered in cold blood yesterday in Pulwama. An united India can stand against terrorism. An India that itself is divided within itself will always have people feeling alienated enough to want to support the terrorists. Instead of a common cause, this kind of promotion of hatred and division undermines our national security as well as our faith in ourselves. So let me try and bring this to an end so we can have a question and answer exchange by saying that building an inclusive India is a very urgent project for the next government. It must be an India that brings everyone together. It must be an India in which we can work with mutual respect, an India where coexistence can truly be above issues of religion, caste, gender, and everything else, and where we can together dream the same dreams together. There's a wonderful old story from the Puranas about a sage and his disciples. And the sage says to his disciples, "When does the night end?" And the disciples say, "Why, at dawn, of course." So he says, "I know that, but when does the night end and the dawn begin?" So the first disciple, who's from the cold and snowy north, says, "Oh, I know. He says, "It's when you see the first shafts of sunlight glinting off the snow and ice on the mountain tops of the Himalayas. That is when the night ends and the dawn begins." "No, my son," says the sage, and he turns to the second disciple, who of course is from Kerala, from the deep south, and he says, "I know, Guruji, it is when the first streaks of sunlight illuminate the palm fronds swaying gently on the coconut trees above the paddy fields, and you can see the whole area being bathed with light. That is when the night ends and the dawn begins." "No," says the sage. He says, "It is when two travelers from our vast land meet together as strangers and realize they are brothers. When they realize they sleep under the same sky, see the same stars, and dream the same dreams. That is when the night ends and the dawn begins." We have witnessed many a terrible night in the dark years that have also bedeviled the last century of our existence as a country. It is time we work together for a new dawn to create an India for all, an India we can all proudly live together in, an India truly of inclusive growth and tolerance for all time. That is the India that people like me will work for, that we are pledged to build, and I hope and pray and believe that all of you will want to join us in this project of helping build such an inclusive and tolerant India in the future. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the interesting session and reminding us about India to remain as a secular country and a safe haven to all people of the different walks and different beliefs. Thank you very much. And now we move on to the question and answer session, and Mr. Isaac John Patani Parambil will be leading this session and he will be moderating.
സോ മലയാളത്തിൽ ചോദ്യങ്ങളുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ മലയാളത്തിൽ ഉത്തരം പറയാം, ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ചോദ്യങ്ങളാണെങ്കിൽ ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ ഉത്തരം പറയാം, ഹിന്ദിയിലാണെങ്കിലും ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടില്ല, ഫ്രഞ്ച് ആണെങ്കിലും ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടില്ല, വേറെ ഭാഷകളെ കുറച്ചുകൂടി ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടില്ല. അറബിക്കിൽ ചോദിക്കണ്ട.
അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കാം, എന്ത് വേണമെങ്കിലും ചോദിക്കാം. ഈ രാഷ്ട്രീയത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് വേണമെങ്കിൽ ചോദിക്കാം. കാരണം ഈസ് ആൾസോ എ പൊളിറ്റീഷ്യൻ, an icon among politicians, so you can ask any questions very candidly and but നിങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഒരു കാര്യം ശ്രദ്ധിക്കണം, make it very brief. Questions should not be a speech. വളരെ ചുരുക്കിയ വാക്കുകളിൽ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ചോദിക്കുക. പറ്റുമെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങളുടെ പേരും കൂടെ പറയുക ചോദിക്കുന്നതിന് മുമ്പ്. I am so and so.
ആരാണെന്ന് അറിയണ്ടേ?
One second. So okay.
Check.
So the first question.
Yes, sir. Good evening. It's me, sir. This side.
Okay.
Susan, নমস্কার, আপনাকে দেখে খুব ভালো লাগলো।
ধন্যবাদ।
আমি পড়াশোনা সব করেছি কলকাতায়, but originally my husband's home is from Velliambalam in Trivandrum. Good to see you here in our church.
You're a daughter-in-law of Trivandrum.
That's right.
খুব ভালো।
পড়াশোনা সব করেছি কলকাতায়, so it is very good to hear your little excerpts of
কলকাতার কোথায় আপনি?
কলকাতায় Park Circus, studied in Queen of the Missions, La Martiniere and Loreto.
আচ্ছা, 3-4 স্কুলে গেছে আপনি।
Sir, my quick question. You mentioned about reimagining India in a new light and the urgency of that requirement. But how would it be possible in an India that is governed by crude politicians? And as you said, the divisive policy. What future do we have when we go back to India, when my kids go back to India? That is a very scary picture.
Well, I think the future is what we are trying to change by defeating those forces, elements, and beliefs that represent that kind of thinking. You know, I don't believe that they truly represent the voice of the majority. Even in the last elections, they came to power with an overwhelming number of seats, but with only 31% of the votes. It was partly a reflection of our fragmented opposition and the fact that in the parliamentary elections, you have a first-past-the-post system in which essentially, even with 33-34%, many candidates won their seats. So when you have 3 or 4 in a constituency, you don't really need to be a majority winner to be the MP. So my problem with the BJP is there are many, many good people in the BJP, but the core beliefs of the party are very dangerous beliefs. They're dangerous for the future of India and for the kind of country we want to build. They have this vision of India as a kind of ethno-nationalist state in which they have confused ethnicity with religion. So whereas, say, for example, Israel, which they admire very much, to be a Jew is both a racial or ethnic classification and is also a religious classification. That is not true of Hinduism. Yet somebody like V.D. Savarkar, who wrote the first book on Hindutva, he writes of Hindus as a race. That's the kind of mentality they've got, that the only race that is supposed to rule India are the Hindus. That's their perspective. Now, even though I'm a Hindu and therefore theoretically benefit from their classification, I disagree fundamentally with this approach. I am very comfortable with the fact that in my country, people are not judged by how they worship or what they worship. In fact, I often like telling the story of the 1971 war when the Pakistani generals were foolish enough to declare jihad against the Hindu unbeliever. Well, whom did they fight their jihad against? The commander of the Air Force in the northern sector, who later became chief of the overall Indian Air Force, was Air Marshal Latif, a Muslim. The commander of the army that fought the war with Pakistan was General Manik Shaw, a Parsi. The commander, GOC&C Eastern Command, who commanded the troops that marched into East Pakistan, which later became Bangladesh, was General Jasjit Singh Arora, a Sikh. And the general whom India helicoptered into Dhaka to negotiate the terms of the surrender of the Pakistani forces there was Major General J.F.R. Jacob, who is Jewish, who was Jewish. So you've got a country in which you can't reduce India to just its Hindu population. All these heroes are authentic Indian heroes, but they come from faiths other than the Hindu faith. So to my mind, that's the kind of India we need to restore. And the only way we will be able to restore it is by ensuring that this is an issue in the elections and that people vote for a more inclusive India rather than voting for people who seek to divide us by privileging one faith over the rest. Then you and your children will feel much more comfortable when you come back. Do come back.
Thank you, Shashiji. That was a lengthy explanation. Okay, now please.
Sir. I'm Rajshekaran from Trivandrum. ഇവിടെ ഞാൻ റെപ്രസെൻ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് ഇന്ദിരാഗാന്ധി വീക്ഷണം ഫ്രം ഷാർജ ആണ്. സർ, ഞാൻ ഒരു പ്രധാനമായിട്ട് ഇന്നലത്തെ മിസ് ഹാപ്പനിങ്, ഇന്നത്തെ വളരെ ദയനീയമായിട്ടുള്ള ആ ഒരു സംഭവത്തെ അടിസ്ഥാനപ്പെടുത്തിയാണ് സാറിൻ്റെ ഒരു ചോദ്യം ചോദിക്കുന്നത്. താങ്കളുടെ MP എന്നുള്ള നിലയിൽ, ഞാൻ കോൺഗ്രസിൻ്റെ പ്രസ്റ്റീജിയസ് MP ആണ്, അതിന് പ്രത്യേകം ഞാൻ അഭിനന്ദിക്കുന്നു. ഒരു MP എന്നുള്ള നിലയിൽ താങ്കളുടെ ഇന്ത്യൻ ഗവൺമെൻറ്റുമായിട്ടുള്ള എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് വെച്ചിട്ടും ഇൻ്റർനാഷണൽ ലെവലിലുള്ള താങ്കളുടെ എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് വെച്ചിട്ടും ഞങ്ങൾ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നത് വെരി അർജൻറ്റ് റിറ്റാലിയേഷനാണ്. വെരി അർജൻറ്റ്. ഇത് ഇന്ത്യയിൽ നിന്ന് ഇപ്പോൾ ഉണ്ടാവുമോ, അതോ ഇലക്ഷനുമായിട്ട് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് ഇതിൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഫൗൾ പ്ലേ നടക്കുമോ?
നോക്കൂ, ഇവിടെ ഇരുന്നിട്ട് നമ്മൾക്ക് സർക്കാർ എന്ത് ചെയ്യുമെന്ന് പറയാൻ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടാണ്. നമ്മൾക്ക് 2-3 കാര്യങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യാനുണ്ട്. പക്ഷേ മിലിറ്ററി റിറ്റാലിയേഷൻ മാത്രം നമ്മൾ ആലോചിച്ചിട്ട് കാര്യമില്ല. കാരണം ഒരു റിറ്റാലിയേഷൻ അവരുടെ ഭൂമിയിൽ നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ അവർ വീണ്ടും റിറ്റാലിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യും. എസ്കലേഷൻ വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ആർക്കും ഗുണം ചെയ്യുന്നൊരു കാര്യമല്ല. അപ്പം നമ്മൾ നല്ലപോലെ ശ്രദ്ധ വെച്ചിട്ട് ഒരു ടാർഗറ്റഡ് ആക്ഷൻ ഒരു പക്ഷെ ചെയ്യണമെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അത് സർക്കാർ, നിങ്ങൾക്കറിയാമല്ലോ, അവർ കുറേ സമയമായിട്ട് സർജിക്കൽ സ്ട്രൈക്സിനെ കുറിച്ചൊക്കെ സംസാരിക്കുന്നവരാണ്. അവരൊരു പക്ഷേ അങ്ങനെ വല്ല ഒരു ഫോക്കസ്ഡ് ആക്ഷനെ കുറിച്ച് ചിന്തിക്കുകയായിരിക്കും. പക്ഷേ സർക്കാർ എന്താ ചിന്തിക്കുന്നതെന്ന് നിങ്ങളൊരു പ്രതിപക്ഷ MP-യോട് ചോദിച്ചിട്ട് വലിയ കാര്യമില്ല, അവരാണ് ഇത് തീരുമാനിക്കേണ്ടത്. എൻ്റെ അഭിപ്രായത്തിൽ നയതന്ത്ര വഴിക്ക് ഡിപ്ലോമസി വിൽ ഓൾസോ ഹാവ് ടു ബി ട്രൈ. നമുക്ക് നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഈ ജെയ്ഷെ മുഹമ്മദ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു ടെററിസ്റ്റ് ഗ്രൂപ്പാണ് ഇതിൻ്റെ ക്രെഡിറ്റ് എടുത്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഞങ്ങളാ ചെയ്ത പറഞ്ഞ് വലിയ അഭിമാനത്തെ ഒരു പ്രഖ്യാപനം. ആരാണ് ഈ ജെയ്ഷെ മുഹമ്മദ്? അസർ മസൂദ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ ഒരാൾ ഒരു ടെററിസ്റ്റ് അറ്റാക്ക് ഇന്ത്യയിൽ ചെയ്ത് അതിനെ അറസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്ത് നമ്മൾ ജയിലിലിട്ട സമയത്ത് പാകിസ്ഥാനികൾ ഒരു ഇന്ത്യൻ എയർലൈൻസ് പ്ലെയിനിനെ ഹൈജാക്ക് ചെയ്തിട്ട് കണ്ടഹാറിൽ കൊണ്ടുപോയത് ഓർമ്മയുണ്ട്, 99-ൽ. ആ സമയത്ത് റിലീസ് ചെയ്തപ്പെട്ട ആളാണ് ഈ മസൂദ് അസർ. ഇദ്ദേഹം ആണ് ജെയ്ഷെ മുഹമ്മദിനെ സ്ഥാപിച്ചത്. ഇദ്ദേഹമാണ് അതിനെ നടത്തുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ചൈനയോട് ചോദിക്കണം, ബാക്കി എല്ലാ രാജ്യങ്ങളും ഇദ്ദേഹത്തിനെ ഒരു ടെററിസ്റ്റായിട്ട് പ്രൊക്ലെയിം ചെയ്യാനും ജെയ്ഷെ മുഹമ്മദിനെ ബാൻ ചെയ്തിട്ട് സാങ്ഷൻസ് ഇമ്പോസ് ചെയ്യാൻ തയ്യാറായിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ ചൈന മാത്രം പാകിസ്ഥാനിൻ്റെ ആവശ്യം മനസ്സിലാക്കിയിട്ട് ചൈന മാത്രമേ അതിനെ തടുത്തിട്ടുള്ളൂ. ദേ ആർ ദി ഓൺലി ഡിസെൻറ്റിംഗ് voice on this issue, but because of the veto system in the Security Council, they have prevented the UN from taking any sanction action against Jaish-e Mohammed. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ചൈനക്കാരോട് ചോദിക്കണം, ഞങ്ങളുടെ 40 ആൾക്കാരെ കൊന്ന ശേഷം നിങ്ങളുടെ സ്ഥാനം ഇപ്പോഴും അതാണോ, അതോ നിങ്ങൾ ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഒപ്പം ഈ ജെയ്ഷെ മുഹമ്മദും പാകിസ്ഥാൻ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഓരോരോ ഭീകരവാദികളുടെ ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻസിനെ നിങ്ങൾ സാങ്ഷൻ ചെയ്യാൻ തയ്യാറാണ്? അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഡിപ്ലോമസിയും നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യണം. ഇത് വെറും അവർ ബോംബിട്ടാൽ നമ്മൾ ബോംബിട്ടു എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് വലിയ കാര്യമില്ല. അവസാനത്തിൽ മഹാത്മാഗാന്ധി പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ, an eye for an eye will leave the whole world blind. അവസാനത്തിൽ റിറ്റാലിയേഷന് ലിമിറ്റ് ഉണ്ട്. നമുക്ക് കുറച്ച് സാറ്റിസ്ഫാക്ഷൻ കിട്ടും. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ, ഒരു സർജിക്കൽ സ്ട്രൈക്ക് അങ്ങനെ വല്ലതും ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നുണ്ടാവും എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ വിചാരിക്കുന്നത്. പക്ഷേ ഞാൻ ഇവിടെ ഇരുന്നിട്ട് പറയുന്നില്ല സർക്കാർ എന്താ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്, എന്താ ചെയ്യാൻ പോകുന്നത്. എൻ്റെ അഭിപ്രായത്തിൽ നമ്മൾക്ക് ആ വഴി മാത്രം നോക്കിയാൽ പോരാ. ഡിപ്ലോമസി നോക്കണം, ഇൻ്റർനാഷണൽ പിന്നെ നമ്മൾ കൾട്ടിവേറ്റ് ചെയ്യണം, UN ആക്ഷൻ, UN സെക്യൂരിറ്റി കൗൺസിലിൻ്റെ റെസൊല്യൂഷൻ കൊണ്ടുവരണം. പാകിസ്ഥാനികൾക്ക് അറിയണം അവർക്കും ഒരു ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് ഉണ്ട് ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഭീകരവാദി ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻസിന് അവരുടെ സോയിലിൽ, അവരുടെ ഭൂമിയിൽ ഫ്ലറിഷ് ചെയ്യാൻ അവരിങ്ങനെ സമ്മതിക്കരുത്. ഇത് വലിയൊരു ഒരു 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 അവസരമാണ് നമുക്ക് പാകിസ്ഥാനിനെ ലോകത്തിന് മുമ്പിൽ വെച്ചിട്ട് കാണിക്കാൻ. ഇവർ ചെയ്യണത് തെറ്റാണ്. ഇവർ എൻകറേജ് ചെയ്തിട്ടാണ്, ഇവർ പ്രോത്സാഹനത്തോടാണ് ഈ ജെയ്ഷെ മുഹമ്മദും ഈ ലഷ്കർ-e തോയ്ബ ഇവരെല്ലാവരും പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നതും മനുഷ്യന്മാരെ കൊല്ലുന്നതും. അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു 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 അടയാളമാണ്, ഒരു ഉദാഹരണമാണ് ഇന്നലെ സംഭവിച്ച ട്രാജഡി. അതുകൊണ്ട് പാകിസ്ഥാനെതിരും പാകിസ്ഥാനെ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന രാജ്യങ്ങൾ, ചൈനയെ പോലുള്ള രാജ്യം ഉടനെ ആക്ഷൻ എടുക്കണമെന്ന്. അതും നമുക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കും. എൻ്റെ അഭിപ്രായത്തിൽ വെറും മിലിറ്ററി റിറ്റാലിയേഷനെ കുറിച്ച് മാത്രം ചിന്തിക്കരുത്. അതല്ല മുന്നോട്ട് പോകുന്ന വഴി. അവസാനത്തിൽ നമ്മൾക്ക് ഒരു ബ്രോഡർ സ്ട്രാറ്റജി നല്ലപോലെ സൂക്ഷിച്ച് ചെയ്യണം. 26 നവംബർ 2008 166 പേരെ ഈ പാകിസ്ഥാനി ടെററിസ്റ്റ് വന്ന് കൊന്നപ്പോൾ ആ സമയത്ത് നമ്മൾ ആരെങ്കിലും ആക്ഷൻ എടുക്കണ്ടെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ടാവും. എല്ലാവർക്കും ഭയങ്കര ദേഷ്യമായിരുന്നു. ഉടനെ ബോംബ് ചെയ്യണം, പാകിസ്ഥാൻ അറ്റാക്ക് ചെയ്യണം, നമ്മൾക്ക് ഒരു റിവെഞ്ച് വേണം, നമ്മൾ ഇത്ര ആൾക്കാരെ കൊന്നില്ല, നമ്മൾ അത്രയെങ്കിലും പാകിസ്ഥാനെ കൊല്ലണം എന്നൊക്കെ പലരും പറഞ്ഞു. ഡോക്ടർ മൻമോഹൻ സിംഗിൻ്റെ വലിയ ബുദ്ധിയായിരുന്നു, അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ശക്തിയുടെ ഒരു തെളിവാണത്. ഈ പ്രഷർ എല്ലാം വന്നിട്ടും കൂടി ഇല്ല, ഞാൻ ചെയ്യില്ല, ഞാൻ ആക്ഷൻ എടുക്കില്ല. പക്ഷേ ഈ അവസരത്തെ എടുത്തിട്ട് നയതന്ത്ര വഴിക്ക് പാകിസ്ഥാനെ നമ്മൾ ഐസൊലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുമെന്ന് തീരുമാനിച്ച പോളിസി എൻ്റെ അഭിപ്രായത്തിൽ ഇന്ത്യക്ക് ആ കാലത്ത് വലിയ ഗുണം ചെയ്തു. ഇതെല്ലാം ആലോചിച്ചിട്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ വീണ്ടും ആക്ഷൻ എടുക്കേണ്ടത്.
I am Sunny Kulatakil.
Can you stand up, Sunny, so that everyone
I am the global president of GoPio. I just want to ask one question. Something which I just think I'll sit for a while. Something which I feel the last several years, 4 or 5 years, there is a deliberate attempt to dilute the importance of Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru. And the typical example what I am saying is, Vajpayee's time we started this Pravasi meeting to commemorate the return of Mahatma Gandhi. Now this new government, they made it once in 2 years, and now the date itself 7 to 9 was the date. That date itself was changed. My question is, we all want to see you as the next Prime Minister of India, but barest minimum, you will be the External Affairs Minister of India. So if you become the minister, I just want to ask you whether you will change the date, this Pravasi meeting, to the old date 7 to 9 to commemorate the return of Mahatma Gandhi.
To be honest, I have no personal expectations. Politics really ought to be about ideas, values, principles, rather than individual ambitions. I am very happy to serve the country in whatever capacity the government may wish me to. And as you know, I have never said no to all sorts of roles. And I think that wherever I can serve and make a contribution, I will do so. If it is this domain, which I agree with you is a very interesting area, then my wish would be, indeed, that we give our Pravasis the importance they have not currently enjoyed. Now that the two ministries of Overseas Indian Affairs and Foreign Affairs have been urged, I would insist that we have at least a Minister of State dedicated full-time to Overseas Indian Affairs, working with the Pravasis and helping deal with the challenges of the Pravasis. And certainly, you're right, there was a special reason why the original date was chosen. It was the date in 1916 that Mahatma Gandhi set foot in India after his long and illustrious sojourn in South Africa. And certainly, I think there is a very good argument for going back to that date. I would certainly be happy to convey it to whoever is the new External Affairs Minister of India.
Next.
Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Tharoor. It's good to finally see you in person. I'm a Parsi from Bombay. And as you know, a large part of our reimagining India lies in reimagining our relationships with our neighbors, our geopolitical neighbors. And given yesterday's terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir, every effort must be taken to neutralize terrorists who conduct attacks on Indian soil. And as you said in the Paradoxical Prime Minister, a lot of issues are black and white in Indian politics. So my question is, is it possible to, on the theme of tolerance, is it possible to conduct that, or is it possible to cultivate that attitude nationwide across India? Because a lot of Indians paint all Pakistanis with one broad brush. And B, how do we sow that kind of attitude so that violence doesn't keep reoccurring? Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. You didn't mention your name.
Jamshed.
Jamshed. You know, Jamshed, the Parsi community, of course, are in many ways almost exempt from the challenges of the intolerance of the ruling powers, because even the BJP elements in our country hail the Parsis as a model minority. And therefore, you are not directly facing a problem, though ironically in Bombay, there is now a crisis facing a number of your fire temples because of a decision to drive a new metro line through them, which will actually destroy temples that have been consecrated through all the rituals of the Zoroastrian faith. And I am one of the few politicians who has raised this issue publicly, saying this is unnecessary. You can easily draw another route. How can you be so indifferent to the faith of our people? I mean, certainly, if this was a series of Hindu temples as significant as the Parsi temples are to the Parsi community, this would never have been done. So, in other ways, intolerance affects you also, your community as well. But your larger question is a very important one. And I would say, Jamshed, that in some ways the answer is what the Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs recommended in its report to the Lok Sabha last year, in fact to both houses last year, which I, as chairman of the committee, had a big hand in writing. And that was that while there is a definite problem with Pakistan, particularly with the willingness of the Pakistani military to support, finance, encourage, help terrorist groups to attack India, the best solution, to my mind, is the opposite of the one this government is pursuing. But the best solution would be more people-to-people contact, more trade exchanges, more human relationships across the border. First of all, because most individual Pakistanis have no hostility to India, and most individual Indians have no hostility to Pakistan. It is these incidents that create and whip up that sense of hostility and hysteria. Secondly, because having met many Pakistanis who have been to India, I am yet to come across one who, after coming to India, has hated us. They've all come and fallen in love with our country, and they've seen so much that is familiar to them, so much that is appealing to them, and they have therefore said, why don't you give more visas more generously, because you'll have more friends in Pakistan. And I'm in favor because, to my mind, we need to enlarge the space in Pakistani society for good relations with India. So if you have a larger constituency of people who have a vested interest in free access to India, that includes business people selling their goods in India, that includes writers, sports people, singers, dancers, actors, movie producers, all of that. If we can make it easy for them by giving them access to our country and our market, in turn they will become a force within Pakistan to discourage the kind of terrorist adventurism that has so badly hurt us. It seems to me that when there is so much more at stake, then a punitive action really hurts. Let's say if we had had the kind of relationship that I'm advocating, and then these 40 people are killed, and we say, okay, now we are stopping everything for 1 month as a punishment, or for 3 months as a punishment, there'll be so many more aggrieved Pakistanis. Today, because very, very few Pakistanis have anything to gain from relations to India, very few have anything to lose either when you actually interrupt these things. So it seems to me that if we were to enhance people-to-people contact and economic relations and trade, we would actually create more of an incentive for India and Pakistan and for us to have good relations, and make it more difficult, raise the price for terrorist adventurism against us from Pakistani soil.
Okay, we have time only for 3 more questions. So whoever wants to know that from that side, we will take a question.
Good evening. Myself, Naushad from Trivandrum.
Hello.
Nice to meet you, sir, here. My question to you, not as an Indian politician, it's a global politician. Now the Indian community is facing the major issue that threat to democracy in India. Do you think really is a threat? There is a call by the opposition leaders that it is our time to elect a new government who respect the Indian democracy. By chance, by the power, by the illiteracy of the Indian majority by the farmers, and the voting machine issues, by any of the chance, the ministry came again. Is it really threat to democracy? Thank you.
Thank you. It's a very good question, Naushad. I'll tell you why we are worried. There are 2 or 3 aspects. By democracy, we mean a country where everybody has equal rights. Many in the BJP do not believe in a country where everybody has equal rights. They believe in the idea of a Hindu Rashtra, in which basically non-Hindus will be second-class citizens. That's the first threat to democracy. Secondly, a democracy is not merely a place where there are elections every 5 years. A democracy is also what happens between those elections. And one of the things that keeps a country democratic are the democratic institutions that are built up, which are in many ways independent of and autonomous from the political parties in power in the day. Such institutions include an independent judiciary, they include an independent election commission, they include the right to information, Central Information Commission, a Central Vigilance Commission, they include the free media, they include independent investigative agencies like CBI, which in theory would be immune from political pressure. All of these institutions are being undermined and hollowed out by the policies of the BJP. And so our worry is that if this party comes back to power, then they will continue with the half-begun task of undermining these democratic institutions and creating a democracy that is completely under their control. Already in a number of institutions you have appointees who are appointed principally because of their allegiance to a certain ideology, the Hindutva ideology. Most university vice-chancellors appointed in the last few years have been people of RSS background. Independent institutions, the Indian Council for Historical Research, the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, the Sangeet Natak Academy, you name it, one thing after another, they have put their people in charge of. So you're going to create an atmosphere in which only one particular way of thinking about India is going to be entrenched in our institutions. Then where is the independent voice you need in a democracy? It will cease to exist. So when we say democracy is in danger, we don't mean that tomorrow suddenly they will shut down the free press and they will stop having elections and so on. We are saying that the institutions, practices, habits, behaviors that give democracy depth and meaning, that those will be under threat. And that's why we need to ensure that we can stop them in their tracks, and they should learn a lesson from the electorate that the trends they have begun in the last 5 years are not acceptable to the people of India, and that the people of India want to see an alternative that will respect everyone's rights equally.
Thank you. Hello, sir. Myself is Sadatullah. I am from Andhra Pradesh. I today brought my daughter also because she's a fan of your English. So I'm very thankful that you spoke in English so that my daughter can understand. Sir, as you know, we all see you as a lawmaker, but more than that, you are an author.
Thank you.
You are an icon of literary. So, and an orator. So, what is one message that you want to give to the youth of our India? Because if we will not attend this youth, they are becoming the victim of polarization. So, what is one big message that you want to give to our youth so that they should not become the victim of polarization?
Well, I think the message to resist polarization comes from that basic message of respect and acceptance. I would say to all young people, when you go to school and class, you don't go with prejudices in your mind. Right, you will think of children, your fellow classmates. That person is tall, or that person is thin, or that person is fat, or that person has a nice smile. You will not ask, is he Hindu, Muslim, Parsi, Christian? I mean, that's not what children do. You have to be conditioned to think of people with these identity labels. Normally, children are the purest innocence because they relate to other children as human beings first. I would say to children, please don't lose that basic innocence. Don't lose that understanding of humanity. That insaniyat comes before mazhab. Religion is not as important as the kind of human being you are. There are good people and bad people in every religion. So you would make a big mistake if you judge somebody principally by their religion, because somebody who belongs to the same religion as you might be a total jerk, and somebody who belongs to a different religion might be an angelically good human being. Look at the human being. Learn to see people for the kinds of human beings they are, rather than see them first through the prism of their faith. That's my strongest advice to children. If you are like this and all your friends are like this, no one will succeed in polarizing you against others.
Good evening, Dr. Tharoor. Thank you for the opportunity to attend the session. So my name is Reshma and I represent the NRI youth, and I belong to St. Thomas Church, as well as I am the youth president for WMC, World Malayali Association. So my question to you is, as a part of reimagining the India, we, the NRI youth, is keen to know if our government, Indian government, planning to have a strategic plan to attract the Indian youth to back in India. If so, how can it reach an ordinary person or ordinary youth like me?
There is already, there are a couple of existing schemes, and if you were to go on the Ministry of External Affairs website, you'll see them. For example, there is a Know India program, where NRI youngsters, youth like you, are invited at the government's expense to come to India, travel, and learn about the country. It's not been a very well publicized program, but it exists. They have also things like the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas in various regions. They have opportunities for NRIs to give their ideas through the various overseas Indian facilitation centers. So there are opportunities, but ultimately, beyond what the government can do, and the government can continue doing those things, publicize them better, encourage them more, all of that, beyond that must be your own level of interest. If you as an individual young NRI cares enough about India, then you can certainly use your own level of knowledge to tap into the kinds of information that's available, not just from government sites, but from your own reading, your own knowledge of others, your contacts with others, attending talks like this, all of that. And then you can try and spread some of your knowledge to other NRIs who may not take as much trouble as you have taken to find out. I would urge there should be more discussion groups here. The Indian consulates in Dubai used to periodically organize lectures by visiting Indians. I don't know if they still do that, but attend those, try and learn more, question the speakers, try and stay engaged. That's the best way. Stay engaged with what's going on in India, and then whenever you go back, renew your awareness of the actual ground realities by spending time in parts of India that you know, that you have access to through your family, whatever. So in NRI, you began by introducing yourself as an NRI. But you know, I wrote a book 20 odd years ago called India from Midnight to the Millennium, where I asked the question, does NRI stand for non-resident Indian or not really Indian? Is it that the person? But I concluded in that book that actually many of them have never relinquished India, that many NRIs still retain a strong bond of loyalty to India. And then 10 years later, I wrote an article in The Hindu, more than 10 years later, in which I said, no, actually NRIs are the national reserve of India. They are really the people who together with us can add depth and strength, resources, commitment, money, help, goodwill, all of that, and ideas to making India progress again. So we should always stand with you. You are our national reserve.
Thank you.
Sir, എൻ്റെ പേര് മോഹൻദാസ്, ആലപ്പുഴയാണ് സ്വദേശം. കഴിഞ്ഞ 36 വർഷമായിട്ട് ദുബായിലുണ്ട്. സാർ വിദേശകാര്യ ഉപമന്ത്രിയായി അടുത്ത രാഹുൽ ഗാന്ധിയുടെ മന്ത്രിസഭയിൽ വന്നാൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പ്രവാസികാര്യ ഉപമന്ത്രിയായി വന്നാൽ 36 വർഷമായിട്ട് കുറേ വർഷങ്ങളായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ കാണുക, കേന്ദ്രമന്ത്രിമാരാവട്ടെ സംസ്ഥാന മുഖ്യമന്ത്രി സഹിതം വന്നിട്ട് പ്രവാസികൾക്ക് വേണ്ടി ഒരു കാര്യം ഇന്ന് വരെ ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല. അപ്പോൾ അവരുടെ ഡെഡ് ബോഡി അയക്കുന്നതിനായാലും അവരുടെ ടിക്കറ്റ് ചാർജ് കുറയ്ക്കുന്നതിനായാലും അവരുടെ തിരിച്ച് നാട്ടിൽ പോയി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അവരുടെ ജീവിത സാഹചര്യം ഒരുക്കുന്നതിന് ഒന്നും ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല. ഇനി ഏതെങ്കിലും ഗവൺമെൻറ് ചെയ്യുമെന്ന് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് പ്രതീക്ഷയില്ല. എന്തൊക്കെ ആഘോഷങ്ങൾ ഇവിടെ നടന്നാലും ശരി തന്നെ അനുഭവത്തിൻ്റെ വിളിച്ച് പറയണം. ഒന്ന്. രണ്ടാമത്തെ കാര്യം, നമ്മൾ ഈ ആദ്യത്തെ സാറ് എന്ത് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഈ പ്രവാസികൾക്ക് വേണ്ടി ചെയ്യാൻ മുൻകൈ എടുക്കും? വിദേശങ്ങൾ ഒത്തിരി പ്രവർത്തിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള ആൾ എന്ന നിലയിൽ. നമ്പർ 2, ഈ മതസഹിഷ്ണുതയ്ക്ക് വേണ്ടി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ രാജ്യത്ത് ഇന്ന് ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ നമ്മൾ അനുഭവിക്കുന്ന ഈ അക്രമത്തിനെതിരെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഈ മത തീവ്രവാദത്തിനെതിരെ ആഭ്യന്തര മന്ത്രി സ്ഥാനമാണ് താങ്കൾക്ക് കിട്ടുന്നതെങ്കിൽ താങ്കൾ ഈ ടോളറൻസിന് വേണ്ടി എന്ത് ചെയ്യാൻ കഴിയും എന്നും കൂടി ഒന്ന് വിശദീകരിക്കാം.
ആദ്യത്തെ 3 ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ, ഞാനും ഒരു പ്രവാസിയായിരുന്നു. 29 വർഷം UN-ലും അതിനു മുമ്പ് 3 വർഷം സ്റ്റുഡൻ്റായിട്ടും വിദ്യാർത്ഥിയായിട്ടും. അതുകൊണ്ട് എൻ്റെ ഹൃദയം നിങ്ങളൊപ്പം തന്നെ. ഞാൻ അഭിമാനത്തോടെ പറയാൻ, ഞാനായിരുന്നു ആദ്യത്തെ ഡെലിഗേറ്റ് 2003-ത്തെ പ്രവാസി ഭാരതീയ ദിവസത്തിൽ. ഞാനാണ് പറഞ്ഞത്, 2006-ത്തെ ഞാനാണ് പറഞ്ഞത്, എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഇന്ത്യ മാത്രമാണ് ഒരു ഏക ജനാധിപത്യം ഇന്ത്യൻ സിറ്റിസൻസിന് വോട്ട് കൊടുക്കാത്തത്. വിദേശത്ത് താമസിക്കുന്ന വ്യക്തികൾക്ക് എന്തുകൊണ്ട് വോട്ടില്ല? ഞാൻ ആദ്യം ഏറ്റെടുത്ത് പറഞ്ഞത് ഒരു പ്രവാസി ഭാരത ദിവസം. അത് കഴിഞ്ഞ് നിങ്ങൾക്കറിയാം, ഞാൻ ഇപ്പോൾ കൂടി സന്തുഷ്ടമല്ല. കാരണം അവർ ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്ന ഈ പ്രോക്സി വോട്ടിംഗ് പോരാന്നാണ് എൻ്റെ വിശ്വാസം. പക്ഷേ ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് വൺ സ്റ്റെപ്പ് ഫോർവേഡ്. അത് മാത്രമല്ല, ഞാനൊരു പ്രൈവറ്റ് മെമ്പേഴ്സ് ബിൽ ഇൻട്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്യാൻ ശ്രമിച്ചു, അത് നടന്നില്ല. ഇന്ത്യയിൽ എന്തുകൊണ്ട് ഡ്യുവൽ സിറ്റിസൺഷിപ്പ് കൊണ്ടുവന്നുകൂടാ? UAE അതൊരു ഓപ്ഷൻ അല്ലെങ്കിലും പല രാജ്യങ്ങളിൽ ഇന്ത്യയെ പ്രേമിക്കുന്ന, ഇന്ത്യയെ സ്നേഹിക്കുന്ന പലവരും ഇന്ത്യൻ പാസ്പോർട്ട് നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ട് വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. കാരണം അവർ ട്രാവൽസിലും അവർ ജോലിക്കുമൊക്കെ ഒരു അമേരിക്കൻ പാസ്പോർട്ട്, ബ്രിട്ടീഷ് പാസ്പോർട്ടൊക്കെ അത്യാവശ്യമാണ്. പക്ഷേ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ആൾക്കാർക്ക് എന്തുകൊണ്ട് നമ്മൾ ഡ്യുവൽ സിറ്റിസൺഷിപ്പ് കൊടുത്തുകൂടാ? ഒരു പാസ്പോർട്ടും പിന്നെ ഒരു പാസ്പോർട്ട് കണ്ടിട്ടല്ല ഒരു മനുഷ്യൻ്റെ ഹൃദയത്തിനകത്തുള്ള വിശ്വാസം മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ സാധിക്കുക. ശരിക്ക് പലവരും വിദേശ പാസ്പോർട്ട് എടുത്തിട്ടും കൂടി അവർ ഹൃദയത്തിൽ അവർ സ്ട്രോങ് ഇന്ത്യൻസ് ആണ്. ചിലവർ ഇന്ത്യൻ പാസ്പോർട്ട് പിടിച്ചിട്ടും കൂടി ദേശദ്രോഹികളായിട്ട് നമ്മുടെ രാജ്യത്തിന് ചതിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു പാസ്പോർട്ടിന് നിറം കണ്ടിട്ടല്ല ഒരു മനുഷ്യൻ്റെ ശരിക്കുള്ള പെരുമാറ്റം മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ സാധിക്കുക. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഡ്യുവൽ സിസ്റ്റം കൊടുക്കണമെന്നും എൻ്റെ ഒരു അഭ്യർത്ഥനയുണ്ട്. പിന്നെ നിങ്ങൾ പറഞ്ഞ പല കാര്യങ്ങൾ, ഈ ഡെഡ് ബോഡി റിപ്പാട്രിയേഷൻ ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളുടെ പോകണം. ഞാനാണ് ആക്ച്വലി എൻ്റെ കമ്മിറ്റി വഴിക്ക് ഇന്ത്യൻ മിനിസ്ട്രി ഓഫ് എക്സ്റ്റേണൽ അഫയേഴ്സിനോട് പാവപ്പെട്ട കുടുംബത്തിന് വേണ്ടി ഇന്ത്യൻ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി വെൽഫെയർ ഫണ്ടിൽ നിന്ന് ആ ഡെഡ് ബോഡി റിപ്പാട്രിയേഷൻ ചെലവ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്നത്. അത് ചെയ്യാമെന്ന് മന്ത്രി പറഞ്ഞു. താങ്കളുടെ ചോദ്യം ഞാൻ മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നു, അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല. പക്ഷെ അത് ചെയ്യണം, അത് നിർബന്ധമാണ്. ഞങ്ങൾ ഭരണത്തിൽ വന്നാൽ ഞാൻ അതിനെ ആവശ്യപ്പെടും. രണ്ടാമത്തത്, പിന്നെ ഞാനൊരു MP ആയിട്ട് എല്ലാ മാസവും ഒരു 10-20 കേസിൽ ഇടപെടുന്നുണ്ട്. ഒരു വ്യക്തിയെ ജോലി നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു പോയിട്ട് അതിന് ഡ്യൂസ് കിട്ടുന്നില്ല. ഒരു വ്യക്തി ആക്സിഡൻറ്റ് മരിച്ചു പോയ ശേഷം പോസ്റ്റ്മോർട്ടമിൻ്റെ പേരിൽ ദേഹം പിടിച്ചിരിക്കുന്ന കുട്ടികൾ, പിന്നെ കുടുംബക്കാർക്ക് അതിൽ നിന്ന് കാണാൻ സാധിക്കുന്നില്ല. പലവർക്കും പെൻഷൻ റൈറ്റ്സും ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നത് കൊടുക്കാറില്ല. പലവരെ ഇതിന് ആരോപണങ്ങൾ വന്നിട്ട് അവർ ജയിലിൽ പോയിട്ട് പിന്നെ ബ്ലഡ് മണി വേണം പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് അവർ കുടുംബക്കാർ എൻ്റെ ഓഫീസിൽ നിന്ന് കരയുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള പല കേസുകളിലും എനിക്ക് നേരിട്ട് ഇടപെടാനും എൻ്റെ വ്യക്തിബന്ധങ്ങൾ ഉപയോഗിച്ച് പലരെയും സഹായിക്കാൻ സാധിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. ആ സ്പിരിറ്റിൽ നമ്മുടെ സർക്കാരും ഇടപെടണമെന്നാണ് എൻ്റെ വിശ്വാസം. ഇന്ത്യക്കാരുടെ വെൽഫെയർ, പ്രവാസികൾക്ക് വല്ല ദുഃഖം സംഭവിച്ചാലോ വല്ല ബുദ്ധിമുട്ട് സംഭവിച്ചാലോ അവരുടെ ഏക രക്ഷയുള്ളത് ഞങ്ങളാണ്, സർക്കാരാണ്, ഇന്ത്യൻ എംബസിയാണ്, ഇന്ത്യൻ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി വെൽഫെയർ ഓഫീസേഴ്സാണ്. അതിനു വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ഞാൻ ആ വകുപ്പിലുണ്ടോ ഇല്ലേ, ആ വകുപ്പിലുള്ള വ്യക്തിയോട് സംസാരിക്കാനുള്ള സ്വാധീനം എനിക്കുണ്ടാവും. ഞാൻ സംസാരിച്ച് നിങ്ങളുടെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യുമെന്ന് പറയാം. അവസാനത്തിൽ നിങ്ങളെല്ലാവർക്കും അവകാശമുണ്ട് നിങ്ങളുടെ ആവശ്യങ്ങൾ എന്നെ അറിയിക്കാം. ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളോട് പറയും ചെയ്യും, ഇത് റിയലിസ്റ്റിക് അല്ല, ഇതുകൊണ്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കില്ല. പക്ഷേ നിങ്ങൾ പറയുന്ന ചില ആവശ്യങ്ങൾ എന്തുകൊണ്ട് സാധിക്കില്ല, എൻ്റെ അഭിപ്രായത്തിൽ ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കണം. അതിനുവേണ്ടി ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളുടെ പേരിൽ ഈ കാര്യത്തിന് വേണ്ടി ശക്തമായിട്ട് നിലപാടെടുക്കാൻ തയ്യാറാണ്. നിങ്ങൾ വരും, സമയം വരുമ്പോൾ ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഭരണമാണെങ്കിൽ, ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ വകുപ്പിനെ കുറിച്ച് എനിക്ക് പറയാൻ അവകാശമില്ല, എനിക്ക് അറിയില്ല, ഒരുപക്ഷെ വേറെ വല്ലവരായിരിക്കും. പക്ഷെ ആരായാലും അവരോട് സംസാരിക്കാനും ഇത് ആവശ്യപ്പെടാനുള്ള സ്വാധീനം എനിക്കുണ്ടാവും. ഞാൻ അത് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണ്ടി ഉപയോഗിക്കും.
ഇനിയും 2 ചോദ്യമേ ചോദിക്കും, കാരണം അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് വേറൊരു മീറ്റിംഗ് പോകാൻ സംബന്ധിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ട് 2 ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ അവിടെ.
Good evening, sir. Myself Lindsay, by profession I am a teacher. It was always a dream to see you in person, and it just happened today. Thank you to all the parish members to initiate this program and to have you here.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Sir, I am an expat and who is residing in this country for past 15 years. So if I have to say about my safety, I and my children, as women and my children, feel more safe than my home country to reside here. So my question is, can we think about reimagining an India where every woman is safe even at midnight 12? Can we think about, can we be more intolerant to such crimes? And do you think more implementation of capital punishments will reduce such crimes or bring fears in the minds of people before doing such crimes?
First of all, let me say I completely sympathize with your concern, and many women in India would share your concern that they don't often feel safe. And I must say that it is sad that a country where there has been so much of respect in our culture for women has reached a stage where these terrible things have happened that we've all read about and seen. There are measures that could and should have been taken. Better street lighting seems like an obvious thing, but it's not enough in many parts of the cities of our country, including, I'm sorry to say, in Kerala. One of the reasons why I became the first MP in Kerala to bring in high mast lights was precisely that I felt the need for illumination for the sake of our women citizens walking alone in the dark. Second, we need far more police and police patrols. We have the lowest police to population ratio in the world. And that's ridiculous. As it is, too many of the police we do have are busy in VIP security duties. Every Indian citizen should be a VIP. We should have many, many more police, and they should be patrolling in all the streets so that no gunda can feel that they can take action with impunity against me. Third, we need a culture of education and training in gender sensitivity. I think every boy from the age of 5 has to be taught how to respect girls as equals, as people with the same rights and obligations, duties and positions as they have. Right now, paradoxically, at home, the male child is treated as a special person, and he knows he has to respect his mother, but short of that, other women he sees as his inferiors, and that attitude translates itself into bad behavior in the real world. We need to fix that through even lessons in gender sensitization from a young age in school, in all schools. And finally, of course, we need more resources into such things as more women policemen, more women's police cells. When a woman feels menaced or aggressed, or even if she has been attacked, she finds it very awkward to go to a police station and talk to a male police officer to take her complaint. Every woman should know that in any police station there will at least be one woman she can meet and talk to and convey her anxieties to and her worries to. All of that needs. These are things that the government, any government can and should do, and I would certainly feel it's a priority. In addition to that, we have been concerned that for the last 5 years, every year, the women and child development budget of this government has been cut. For them, it's clearly not a priority. They're only interested in slogans. Beti bachao, beti padhao. But the paise you need to give to bachao the beti and to padhao the beti, paise nahi denge. That's the kind of situation we're seeing in our country. And for that, we need to absolutely put in the necessary amounts in the budget to strengthen programs to protect women. Ultimately, these are the best things we can do. With all this, change may still only be gradual, but I think it'll come. I'm not a believer in capital punishment. Generally speaking, I think it's wrong morally. I don't think the state should reduce itself to the level of a killer by taking a human life. But equally, there are studies around the world that have demonstrated that capital punishment does not have a deterrent effect. It is no measurable indication showing that the existence of capital punishment would deter certain crimes. A criminal, by definition, commits a crime regardless of the consequences, whatever those consequences may be, because 90% of the time they think they won't be caught. So the problem is not with capital punishment, the problem is with more effective preventive action, including patrolling, policing, lighting, all of those things. I hope I gave you a comprehensive answer. Do come back more often, Lindsay. Take care.
One more question, and then before that, ending, students our
Paul George,
Thank you.
എനിക്ക് വലിയ ആവശ്യങ്ങളൊന്നുമില്ല, ഒരു നിസ്സാരപ്പെട്ട ആവശ്യം. ഈ അടുത്ത സമയത്ത് സാറിൻ്റെ ഒരു ബുക്കിൻ്റെ റിലീസുമായിട്ട് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട ഒരു ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് വേർഡ് വരക്കെ ഞങ്ങളെല്ലാം ചർച്ച ചെയ്യപ്പെട്ടു. ആ വാക്ക് സാറിൻ്റെ വാക്കിൽ നിന്ന് കേൾക്കാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നു. അതുപോലെ ഒരു കാര്യം കൂടെ, അതുപോലത്തെ ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു പുതിയ വേർഡ് ഞങ്ങളെ ഒന്ന് പഠിപ്പിക്കാൻ ഇപ്പോൾ പറ്റുമോ? പിന്നെ മറ്റൊരു കാര്യം കൂടെ, യുണൈറ്റഡ് നേഷൻസിൽ നമ്മുടെ ആളുകൾ അധികം അങ്ങോട്ട് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നതായിട്ട് കാണുന്നില്ല. അവിടെ എത്തപ്പെടാൻ എന്തെങ്കിലും സാറിന് എന്തെങ്കിലും ഗൈഡ് ലൈൻസ് കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റുമോ?
അത് 3 ചോദ്യമായി. ഒന്നും ചോദിക്കുന്നു ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു ശേഷം. ശരി, ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞുതരാം. ഒന്ന്, ഈ വാക്ക് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ പുസ്തകത്തെ അനൗൺസ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ഞാൻ എല്ലാ എഴുത്തുകാരും പുതിയ പുസ്തകത്തെ കുറിച്ച് അനൗൺസ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് ജനങ്ങളുടെ മനസ്സിൽ കയറ്റുക. ഞാൻ വിചാരിച്ച ഒരു വാക്ക് ഉപയോഗിച്ചാൽ അവരുടെ മനസ്സിൽ ഇത് വെറും ബി അമ്യൂസിങ് പറഞ്ഞാണ് ഞാൻ എഴുതിയത്. My new book, The Paradoxical Prime Minister, is more than just a 500-page exercise in floxy-nosy nihilipilification. അപ്പോൾ floxy-nosy nihilipilification is the act of estimating us worthless. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു വ്യക്തിയോ ഒരു സാധനമോ ഒരു പ്രശ്നം ഒന്നിനും കൊള്ളില്ല നിങ്ങൾ തീരുമാനിച്ചാൽ ആ തീരുമാനവും അത് പറയണതും ഫ്ലോക്സിനോസി nihilipilification-ആണ്. That's the first one. Second one, ഒരു പുതിയ വാക്ക് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണമെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ വലിയ പുതിയതൊന്നുമല്ല, കുറേ വർഷങ്ങളുള്ളൊരു വാക്കാണ് defenestration. Defenestration, DEFENESTRATION. Defenestration എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ to throw something out of the window. So if we say that the objective of the Congress party in the forthcoming election is the defenestration of Mr. Modi and the BJP. UN-നെ കുറിച്ച് ഞാൻ UN വിട്ടിട്ട് 12 വർഷം കഴിഞ്ഞു. പക്ഷേ ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു ഉപദേശം ആർക്ക് ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിലും www.un.org കയറിയാൽ ഏതൊക്കെയാണ് ജോലികൾ, ഏതാണ് വേക്കൻസി, കമ്പാറ്റിറ്റീവ് എക്സാമിനേഷൻസ്, ഏത് നാഷണാലിറ്റീസ് ആണ് എലിജിബിൾ. നാഷണാലിറ്റി ഓവർ റെപ്രസെൻറ്റഡ് ആണെങ്കിൽ അവർക്ക് ജോലി കിട്ടാൻ സാധ്യതയില്ല. ഇതെല്ലാം UN.org, www.un.org പോയി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എല്ലാം കാണാൻ സാധിക്കും. ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു കുട്ടി ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു ഇവിടെ നടുവിൽ.
My name is Shreya Bino. I've just recently started reading a book, The Great Indian History, just 2 chapters in. My question
The Great Indian Novel.
Yeah. So I'm a little nervous. Sorry. So you said that India there was a question, is India an underdeveloped country? And you said it's an overdeveloped country. My question is how?
No, that was the privilege of the satirist, is to exaggerate certain ideas for effect. So the novel begins with the statement that India is not an underdeveloped country, but in the context of its history, the glorious ages of the past, that it is an overdeveloped country in an advanced state of decay. India was the richest country in the world till the 18th century. In 1700, not only did India account for 27% of global GDP, but the revenues of the Emperor Aurangzeb exceeded those of every crowned head in Europe put together. That's how wealthy India was. In the 1st century AD, India was like the USA of the world. It was the country that was considered glittering, prosperous. Everyone had dreams and fantasies about visiting India. There are debates in the Roman Senate, recorded by the historian Pliny the Elder, who says that Roman senators would make speeches saying that all the gold of Rome has gone to India because of the taste of Roman women for Indian silk and linen and spices. So the fact is that India was at one time seen as the paragon, the highly developed country in the world. As late as the 16th and 17th centuries, English shopkeepers would try to pass off shoddily made European goods as made in India, because made in India was the hallmark of quality. So when you look at all of that, India was an overdeveloped country, but now in an advanced state of decay. That's the joke. But it's a satire, and in satirical novels, you're allowed to exaggerate for the purpose of effect. So I hope you read the book in that spirit. A lot of it is meant to be in a spirit of good humor.
Hello, sir. Sir, it was a dream to see you in person. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Sir, I'm in Dubai for the last 4 years, and I'm a data scientist by profession. So in statistics, we have a theorem which is 5y theorem. So if you take any problem and you question it 5 times y, you get to the root cause of that. So in India, we have many
What's your
problems.
name? Identify your name.
Gagandeep.
Gagandeep.
Yeah. So in India we have many problems like poverty, unemployment, overcrowded train slums, bad air and water quality and all. In any government's ruling party's election manifesto, I don't see the root cause of this problem. As per me, the root cause for that is overpopulation. I have some statistics which says that right now we are the second most populous nation, and by 2040 we were to surpass China. But that
by 2034.
And the recent study says it will be done by 2025.
26, yeah.
So we are one nation with 1.34 as of now. 55 European nations have 782 million. 56 American countries have 982 million. 54 African countries have 1.1 billion. Don't you see, sir, that this overpopulation problem is prevalent across India? And if your party wins in the 2019 Lok Sabha election, what is the difference in the election manifesto that Congress will have, which will make education mandatory regarding to population reforms? Because I see all the South Indian states have the net fertility rate which is very low compared to Rajasthan, UP and all, which have 3.5 and 3.6, and those are the ones which overall impact India's population growth. So what will be the difference in your party's reforms towards this?
Well, let me say that you're quite right in a lot of the things you've said. In fact, you're sitting in the largely Keralite audience, and Kerala is the one state in India where it is expected that the 2021 census will show a decline in population from the 2011 census. The first state in India to do that, and each successive decade, some of the southern states will all turn in that regard. So it is indeed a southern solution to the problem that we need to look at. Why has the South been able to overcome the burgeoning population crisis? Why has the North not done so? And the real answer is that development is the best contraceptive. That when you have development and prosperity, people don't have that many children. They are not poor because they have too many children. They have too many children because they're poor. Because they're poor, they see the children as an investment in their security. An extra child is guaranteed to live longer and support them in their old age. An extra child can be put to work in the fields or domestic chores at home, or to sew a football or weave a carpet or whatever it may be, work in a tea shop. So for poor families, a child requires very little investment. They don't have to worry about school uniforms because they don't send them to school. They don't have to worry about doing very much else. The child becomes a net economic earner. Whereas when development and prosperity come, when educated people get jobs and so on, then a child is a responsibility. A child has to be sent to school, you've got to buy uniforms, you've got to buy food, you've got to teach them, help them grow, etc. And they're not earning money for you. So you have fewer children, also because the healthcare system has reached a point where you know your child is likely to live long, and you don't need 8 children to be sure that 1 or 2 will survive to look after you in your old age. So the people's calculations change along with prosperity. And by and large, in most countries, that's the way this change has come. In my own family, my parents were each one of 8 children. They had 3 children, and none of us has had more than 2. Well, actually, one sister did have a 3rd child, but anyway, the other sister's 2, and I've had 2, and we've stopped. And this is very typical in many, many Indian families. With prosperity, with security, with better healthcare, with jobs, with education, family size will shrink. I am not in favor of a coercive policy. It didn't work when Mrs. Gandhi and Sanjay Gandhi tried it during the emergency. In fact, it created a backlash because inevitably, when you set population targets, then coercion follows. People are forced, people don't like it, you have a crisis. But also, it has not worked at all in China. China is regretting their one-child policy because right now the consequence a generation later, they've had a number of negative consequences. The most basic consequence is that one child is growing up and has to look after 4 grandparents. And that child is not able to cope. He has his own family worries. And as a result, he himself doesn't want to have more children because he can't support so many people himself. On top of that, because of the same cultural bias in favor of boys, many girls in China were aborted or exposed, left behind. Other girls survived but illegally. So they were never, their existence was not admitted. They were not put in the school system. They're going to be a drag on Chinese society. So the one-child policy in China did restrict population. That is why India is on course to overtake China. But China will live with the negative social consequences for a long time. That's why in India we need to do it organically, naturally, normally, and not through force or coercion. But as I said, let's encourage more development, more knowledge, more education, more empowerment to women. So a woman who knows her rights is less likely to have more children than she can look after. All of these things, through gradual incremental social change, supported by government policy, supported by tax incentives for small families, we can get to that point. But certainly trying to do it by force would not work and would be a bad idea.
Thank you, Dr. Tharoor-ji, and this was a very insightful interaction, and I congratulate the crowd for being so tolerant. You are the epitome of tolerance and understanding, and very patient. They have been patiently listening, and thank you and very much for your cooperation. Thank you, Shashi-ji.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Father Philip, and all of you at St. Thomas's.
It is indeed an honor to have Dr. Shashi Tharoor, a man of distinct vision, a fountainhead of illuminating ideas, an idol of knowledge and experience, and an inspiration to all of us here today. May I take this opportunity to invite our vicars, Reverend Father Nainan Philip and Father Saju Thomas, to present our guest of honor with a gift as our humble token of gratitude for his gracious presence here today and the latest addition to our vocabulary with defenestration.
On behalf of all of you, irrespective of caste, creed, and religion, not only on behalf of this church, we are going to present this small gift with a small prayer. Next time, this name, keynote address Dr. Shashi Tharoor, after P, that M should come. May God bless you all. May God bless you.
Now, Reverend Father Saju Thomas will deliver the vote of thanks.
Good evening, dear brothers and sisters. I'll not take much time. As we all know, Dr. Shashi Tharoor is a gifted orator and a respected author. And one thing I would like to mention about Dr. Shashi Tharoor is that he is the youngest person ever to receive doctorate at the age of 22 from Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University. So, one line of gratitude to Dr. Shashi Tharoor in Hindi. Will you all allow? Thank you. सारा जहां उसी का है जो मुस्कुराना जानता है, रोशनी भी उसी का है जो शमा जलाना जानता है। हर जगह मंदिर, मस्जिद, गिरजा है, लेकिन ईश्वर तो उसी का है जो सर झुकाना जानता है। So, Dr. Shashi Tharoor is a epitome of humility and simpleness. On behalf of St. Thomas Orthodox Cathedral, I would like to thank Dr. Shashi Tharoor for his valuable time for attending and gracing this wondrous moment. Thank you, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. I would like to thank to all the friends and well-wishers of Dr. Shashi Tharoor and of this wonderful parish for coming and attending this meeting. Thank you all. Thank you very much. All the guests, respected vicar, office bearers, managing committee members, Sri Isaac Patanipuram, Malangara Association Member, Delhi Diocesan Council Member, and Honorable Association representatives, dear brothers and sisters. Once again, I would like to thank you all for coming and gracing this occasion. Thank you, and you all have a wonderful day. Jai Hind.